Meeting this evening for Club Coach is let's chat. I know that all the clubs have issues that they're dealing with. This is an opportunity for Club Coach, Club Executive, club members to bring some of their concerns forward and just chat about it. See what ideas are out there, what other people have done, how they're working through it. So if you have a specific problem that you wanted to bring forward, please do so, and we'll discuss that. If not, we can bring a few topics up for discussion. So does anyone have anything in particular? Oh, and just a reminder, we are recording the meeting for those that are unable to attend because of other commitments so that they can access it. Does anyone have a particular question that they would like to bring up? Or would you like someone else to start the discussion for you? And as questions come forward, we can add them in. I'll kick it off. I know that one of the huge problems within many of our clubs is membership. So I think what we need to do is a bit of brainstorming or see what has worked well within a club for membership. I can tell you that 2 of the clubs I belong to have done Speechcraft. It's not bringing in huge numbers of people, but it is bringing in people that are staying with the clubs and adding to the clubs. We had a very pleasant surprise this year. One of our members that took Speechcraft, not this past year, but in 2022, 2023, came back after a break and rejoined the club. So it obviously is of value to the people that take Speechcraft. And fortunately, in our district, Speechcraft, if your club does one Speechcraft, it is reimbursed by district to encourage clubs to consider using Speechcraft. Now, Kathy, Debbie, do you have any comments about Speechcraft? Because I know you have both worked with it.
Well, Speechcraft is just an excellent tool. As Mark said, we don't get whopping numbers, but we do get people who are, once they've done Speechcraft, they stay for the most part, or they, as Mark says, they rejoin. So I believe Speechcraft is actually something that is a great tool, and I'm hoping that our club runs it every year.
I think Speechcraft is an underutilized tool that not a lot of clubs take advantage of. I know last year there was an incentive up to $50 Canadian that district would reimburse, and I believe that was up to the first 6 clubs that took advantage. I do not believe we had a full 6 clubs that took advantage. This year, the district is reimbursing the full amount in US, and you just send the club girls director, myself, the invoice, the paid invoice, and then it'll go through the system. I do want to make one correction though. I know it's been said that it was only for the club to do it once. I will do it more than once, just because it is that it's underutilized. And for the district, I think it's a good incentive to get members in. And again, like I said, I don't believe clubs are taking full advantage of it. If they were, I don't think we could offer that incentive. But that incentive is out there to get clubs thinking about it, and for district to help them. If they say they can't afford to do Speechcraft, we've taken that roadblock away from them. So, yes.
Go ahead, Wa.
Oh, you're on mute.
You're muted.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. I guess I'm somewhat new to even though I've been with Toastmaster, I think close to a year now, but I guess I haven't really know much about it. So what is this tool, Speechcraft? What does it do?
So Speechcraft is actually set up over, you can do it in 4 weeks, you can do it in 6 weeks, or you can do it in 8 weeks. Most clubs will charge a fee for Speechcraft. Usually they'll cover an amount that is going to cover the club membership, the new member fee, and maybe some of the club expenses. It can't be any more than what you would charge for a year of Toastmasters. There is a portal that the person who is the coordinator goes into and the Speechcraft participants go into. And it's got guidelines for every meeting. Most meetings will include an education session. The people participating in Speechcraft will do speeches based on a set program. So what normally happens is the first week, it's just introductory, telling them what we have to offer, finding out what they want from Speechcraft. And then an education session. The next week, they're right in to their very first speech. They do their icebreaker speech the second week of Speechcraft. Every week, they will do a speech. They will be provided an education session, sometimes 2, sometimes 1, depending on what's in the program and what they want out of it. But it is quite, I've heard it referred to this way, it is Toastmasters on steroids. Because if you think about your club, how many people do a speech a week? Speechcrafters do. By the time somebody completes Speechcraft, if they have attended the full gamut of Speechcraft, they can certainly complete a level 1 with great ease. So what it is giving them a taste of what Toastmasters has to offer. Some people will come, take the 6 or 8 weeks and wander off and maybe come back later. Others will come and stay because they realize the benefit of what they received. It's $50 US. This year it translated to almost $70 Canadian. The biggest thing is it also offers opportunities to your club members because the club members are normally the people that will present an education session. So your club members also get to participate, but it does take your regular meeting schedules or agendas down for the time you're running it. Any other questions? I know it's a lot to take in.
So is this app or this Speechcraft, is it for the whole club or just for one member of the club?
So one person is the coordinator. They can use that on their path to their Distinguished Toastmaster Award, but one person coordinates it, and usually you can have up to 5 participants. If you've got a 1-hour meeting, most people have found 3 is the max that you can really accommodate and allow a lot of time for anything else. Yvonne, did you have a question?
I don't have a question, but this is just a matter of curiosity. I've been a member of Toastmasters since 2016. I have never done Speechcraft. Nobody's ever talked about Speechcraft. And I belong to the Igniters, and they're a pretty established group, and they certainly know what's going. But Marvin, Nandini, nobody in the group has ever mentioned Speechcraft, the benefits that we would get from it. Therefore, I know nothing about it. I've never used it, never looked into it. And I'm just here going, okay, that sounds interesting. And that's all.
You know, it's if your club has a really strong club and they're bringing in members anyway, that's great. They've probably got a really great program. When you start to struggle with membership, or if you notice even club members aren't doing educationals or not grasping what the projects are, it's a great kickstart to the club. Both of the clubs I'm in have been running it for the last 2 years. It was a learning curve for us because I had never done a Speechcraft before. I know Kathy had done Speechcraft previous when it wasn't online.
Yeah, did it as a in-person type thing.
So it runs with a portal that runs similar to Pathways, but it's an isolated one. And the unique thing is the coordinator can go in and see what's happening, and the participants can go in and see what's happening, but they have to learn how to maneuver it. It's not, as somebody said to me, it's not as nice as the Pathways portal. There's a little bit more challenge to it, but it is a set routine. And if you ever want to talk more about Speechcraft, certainly reach out.
Yeah.
The
I was
biggest
gonna-
trick. Go ahead,
Sorry.
Deb.
I was gonna say, I was just going to inject here, sorry. I was just gonna say one thing about Speechcraft, it's more focused for clubs that are struggling. So basically they're not at chartered strength. When you go into Igniters, the reason why they have never talked about it, you guys are more than charter strength. That club, I think, is at 30 members, which is wow. I'd like to know what they're doing, what the secret sauce is
Hey,
there.
I've got 8 members this year. What do you think? I haven't got them. They've come by themselves.
Yeah, and that's amazing. That is just, it's just amazing. You have clubs like Calgary Pacesetters, they're the same way. But then you have those other clubs that are struggling. They're not at charter strength. And of course, charter strength is 20 members. So if they're less than charter strength, offer a Speechcraft. That's one way to gain more members. Yeah.
But Mark, you're helping, you know that I'm the coach for Weekend Word Masters. They don't use speech, they don't use it either. I've never heard you suggest it to them, so just tell me why.
I've had a discussion with Michelle, and I don't want to put too much on Michelle. The challenge with Speechcraft is you have to call on fellow members to come in and help with it. Because if your club's below 12 members, you may not have the club members who can do all the educational. So it takes a little bit of coordinating. I certainly think it would be something beneficial, but it's difficult now because so many of us are struggling to manage what we're managing, that it becomes difficult to invite people in. But it's certainly something that you and Michelle and I could have a discussion about. And we could certainly offer it. It's just coordinating it and making sure you have the people, because you also have one-to-one mentoring with the participants. And something we have done over the past 2 years, we've had some vacant spaces, and we've actually filled them with Toastmasters from other clubs. So they go through Speechcraft, they have access to the portal, they see how Speechcraft works.
And
I mean,
I was going to say, just a shout out to Yvonne and to Weekend Word Masters. I just took a look at the dashboard. Yvonne, I don't know if you're looking at it.
No.
12 members. You have, so I hope renewal time, they all renew. Because if you can get that club, I think you need one more point to get it at distinguished.
Yeah.
And you will have your club coach. So my fingers are crossed for you that you can keep those 12 members at renewal time.
I think the issue is, like Mark said, Michelle is already overworked. She bears the world on her shoulders, and she does an amazing job at doing that. And I don't want to overload her. Plus, I can't exactly suggest Speechcraft when I know nothing about it. I've never done it myself. I've never worked through it. So I don't exactly know how I could even pursue that. I see what you're saying. We want to get them up as best we can, but I see new members coming in. I see people giving speeches. I see more speeches being planned. And I see that they probably, no, I don't know. Their dashboard doesn't even show. How many new members does it show if you're looking at the dashboard there? Probably 4 new ones.
6.
Because you're getting some old members that are now returning.
You might have had reinstated, but it shows 6 new members right now.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Well, let's just,
And
I'm praying for the 2 more. It's not me, it's Michelle.
Another thing that we've done with Speechcraft is if they sign up for the Speechcraft and pay the cost, which is what we want, they will get a 6-month Toastmaster, 6 months in Toastmasters in our club. So that is a little bit of an incentive too, because
didn't-
that's a little freebie.
Sir Cassie, I didn't quite understand it. If they do speech here, if that is 6 months, something for Toastmasters?
They, if they pay, like ours is $100. You pay $100, you get Speechcraft, and you also get 6 months of Tap Toastmasters, which is our club.
And
So
that's
that,
what a lot of clubs will do. They'll charge enough to cover it.
Okay, I stand. I don't know what to actually say to Michelle. I'm leaving it. You're talking to her already, Mark. Maybe I'll leave it to you.
Yeah, I can
And-
talk to her again.
And then I
I'm-
look more into it,
Yeah,
fill my gaps.
and it is a challenge to put it on when you've got a struggling club and don't have enough members to support. I would say you need at least 4 really good, strong members to support holding a Speechcraft. The other thing is you can do a Speechcraft within your club itself. And that encourages the club to do some of those level 1 projects and gives them an understanding of the projects. But I'm looking for other ideas you've used to bring in members. I know most of us will have guest meetings where we feature a guest speaker to bring people in. So here's the question. How many clubs have had guests at their meetings? Show of hands. How do you close the sale to get those people to sign up? Yvonne, Weekend Wordmaster's been very successful. What's the trick?
I'm sorry, ask it again. I wasn't paying attention. Obviously, I zoned out.
Okay. Weekend Wordmasters has been very successful at bringing members in and getting them to sign on the dotted line. Obviously, Igniters knows how to do that too. What is the trick to converting a guest to a member?
I've been following some guests for over 6 months. When they go to club leads and write to your club saying they're interested, you write them back immediately and you let them know a little bit about your club. And then you invite them to come to a meeting. Our meetings alternate between Zoom and in person. And I let them know that right off the bat. I tell them where the meeting is and I tell them what the Zoom link is. I tell them they don't have to know anything about the meetings at all. They just show up and see what it's like. And most of them respond and say, I'm sick, my son is sick, we think you might have, blah, blah, blah. So all the excuses people like to give, and I write back and say, that's perfectly fine. Things happen to all of us. Try for next week instead. So next week comes in, I have COVID. So now he can't come for a few meetings. I said, that's fine. When you're feeling better, come to a Zoom meeting when you're feeling okay. And I just keep the conversation going. I ask them a little bit about themselves and what drew them to it. I am just curious with them. Why did you want to join? What are you hoping to gain? I think just opening conversations with anybody makes them think you're interested in them. And don't people like to have people interested in them? And don't drop the chain. If they don't respond for a month, you respond and say, I haven't heard from you. Are things going okay? How can I help you? What can I help you with? Whatever you say, it changes with every person. I never write a rote letter. I always write a personal one because I think people can tell when it's a standard letter and they can tell when it's a personal one. And don't we all in the age of mass letters, mass everything prefer to be responded to individually? I think they do. That's how I like to be addressed. So that's how I fill the gaps with them, persistence. And just continuing it. When they drop out, you don't drop out. You follow them a month or so later. And then if you haven't heard for 3 months, you say, okay, we've had no contact for 3 months. Do you want to still hearing from me? I'm still sending them the links every month and what the meeting's about. I don't want to be a pest in anybody's inbox. Please let me know if you'd like to be off my list. And still nobody responds. So then what do? Then I wait for another month, send the letter again, and if they again don't respond, they're out of there. They know my how to get a hold of me, and they can reply when they're ready to. I will not be a pain in the arse in somebody's inbox. If they don't want me, I'm gonna get out. And if they want me, they know how to find me. So that's my clues. Responding immediately, consistent responses to them, letting them know what your meeting's like, and then follow up to whatever they've replied. And I think that's the best way to get contacts. When they've been to a meeting, I reply again, say it was great to see you at the meeting. And some of them even do table topics on their first meeting. I congratulate them from doing that and say, you've already shown that you're a great speaker without even knowing what you're doing. We really would like to help you become more, and you will get out of your niche and learn how to speak better and become more confident if you just join and do more speeches. So that's what I've done.
Prompt follow-up and continuous follow-up.
Yeah.
Eric, we haven't heard from you. What works in your club to get those people that are guests signed up as a member?
When we started Capital Toastmasters Club, we put flyers out, but excuse me, I had a stroke, so you had to excuse me for my speech.
It's all good.
We When we started Capital Toastmasters, we had started within 3 months. We went around and stuck a flyer from restaurants and every restaurants and everybody, and we had it chartered from within 3 months. I'm a charter member of Capital.
Awesome.
It just works out real well. I our our Capital Supervisors meet in the Arkansas State Capitol. Maybe the only state capital in the country that hosts that hosts a Toastmasters club.
That's cool.
Um, and mm, and we'll have an open houses in District 43 this year, which is drawing a huge success, I think. Getting the word out, newspaper, radios, advertisement, and and I'm very proud of Baptist Health Toastmasters. Well, it's been meeting 37 years. It's in the hospital. Um, I was a resident at the hospital like a few months ago when I was in the hospital with a stroke. Um, and I talked up the club when I was in the hospital. And getting um um so I I talked to speech therapist who I became uh, who I became came quite acquainted with the speech therapist and and the in the stroke victims unit in Baptist Hospital. I recruited from there, from the stroke victims unit. I, uh, um, I, um, when I got out of the hospital, I started working on my first speech because I knew I had a speech to give. And that's when then I was able to give it at Baptist Health Hospital. And so I was actually a protege of of a protege of their, I cannot say the word.
You sounds like you were a great inspiration to others and maybe brought in some members because they saw your example. So great work, Eric. And to
Thank
be
you.
able to give a speech so soon after a stroke is really an accomplishment.
Thank you. Thank you.
So just being a personal example sometimes is what brings people in. I have also heard a lot of people say that a personal invitation is more meaningful than a lot of other things that we do for PR. So sometimes just saying to somebody, come to a meeting with me, come to a contest with me, or inviting somebody to something will bring them in. Deb,
I think so.
have you got any words of wisdom, Debbie?
Follow up, just like Yvonne said, follow up with the guest. See if they're interested, why did they decide to come to the meeting? One thing, I know I visited a club last year, and I'm trying to do it in my home club, is when you have guests, have them introduce themselves. Sometimes I hear at clubs, oh, if you feel if it's okay, if you feel like it, please introduce yourself. Just ask them the question, ask them what their name is, and ask them what brought them there to the meeting. And then at the end, again, ask them how they enjoyed the meeting and follow up right then before they leave the meeting. Follow up and ask them if they want to join. Provide them a membership application form. If it's online, chat with them. I know sometimes it's hard, but if you have more than 2 or 3 guests, split it up between another person on the meeting and ask them to follow up with some people. Strike up a little bit of a conversation with them, not an in-depth one, but say, hi, how are you? My name is Debbie Stearns. I'm the VP of membership. And then ask them for their email address and follow up with a Zoom meeting and ask them about themselves instead of hitting them with, so do you want to come into my club? Like, let's join right now. Have a conversation with them, whether it's an half hour, an hour, strike up that conversation with them. And at the end, ask them to join and how Toastmasters will help them, how it helped you. Just that's my words of wisdom. Don't be afraid to have them introduce themselves at the beginning, and then at the end, ask them what they thought of the meeting. They came to the Toastmasters meeting for a reason. And also follow up at the end. If it's handing them a membership application form and saying, hey, sign up today, it's $45. Or following up, if it's on Zoom, follow up with the meeting, with the Zoom meeting.
Good advice, Debbie. We did have a few questions that were actually emailed in because somebody could not attend. What promotional items can the district make available to each club to assist with club building, regardless of whether the club has 12 or fewer members? For example, from the Toastmasters International shop or other areas. I think one of the things we talked about was Speechcraft, but I don't know. I know there are some free items that you can order. Does anyone use items from Toastmasters International for club promotion?
I do believe that each of the division directors, if I am not mistaken, get some flyers. Not anymore. No
They
more.
can ask for them. Like, they're not just, here's some flyers for your club. They can ask for them. I don't think a lot of division directors have asked for it. I know our PRM has a lot of that material now. And if they want it, they can order it and then submit it, or they can ask one of us for it. But they're not really provided. But that is a good, maybe that is something that we should be doing, is providing them with material.
Yeah, especially if it's in person, because you've got a
Yeah.
brochure or something to hand to them. And also, I'm sure you could put something online that you could send to them as well.
And there is free brochures online from Toastmasters International. At the same time, the club should be collecting some funds. If they want to have some promotional items, the club should be collecting some funds above the Toastmaster International fee, just to help them with promotional items like ribbons or civil speakers. One thing that we just did, well, I know Stacy just did, was she ordered business cards. We ordered them from Vistaprint. We did use the template that is on Toastmasters International, and we put civil speakers. We have a generic email for it. And because we're at City Hall, we're able to display those where all the pamphlets are displayed. That's one thing that Civil does. And those business cards are actually relatively cheap. I think like $25 will get you 100 cards. So that's something to think about.
And that's a great idea if you have somebody that goes to a lot of conferences where they're meeting other people, hey, I belong to, you give a speech and they say, gee, you did a great job. And you say, I belong to Toastmasters. Here's a business card. Because people collect them when they're at conferences. Kathy, you had a comment.
Yeah, well, I was suggesting about the flyers and such. I find the personal touch is usually the best. And I completely agree with Yvonne. Follow up, follow up, follow up. Until they absolutely are not going to be back again. And it's strange how maybe years later you will run into them or hear from them again. So well, it is said that people have to be asked 20 times before they actually join something. Now, you might not be the first person that's told them about Toastmasters. And if you're lucky, maybe you're the 19th or 20th one. And then they hopefully will come.
Thanks for that suggestion, Kathy. We sometimes forget. We ask people and then we quit asking. Maybe it's time to ask them again. Another little question here. When clubs earn credits such as 7 out of 7 officers attending training or holding meetings over the summer or achieving a distinguished status, what is the process for sending out the recognition items for these achievements? I know I have no idea what the process is. Deb, do you have any insight?
I do. That all falls under the program quality director. The program quality director gets all the information. So they keep a spreadsheet. They get all the information from the Zoom meetings, put it into the spreadsheet, and then update Toastmasters International. If a club has 7 out of 7 club officers trained, then all the information goes to the recognition chair. And if you don't know who the recognition chair is for this year, it is Saya. She is our recognition chair. Then it goes to her to ensure that we have the supplies and then gets them delivered out to the division director, ideally, or the area director. Sometimes she'll be at the library and she'll say to the division director, I'm at the library. All division directors come and pick up. I'm here between here and here. So a lot of that is with the recognition chair. I do know the recognition chair is busy getting caught up from the last few years. There's been awards missed, and she's just in the midst of getting that all together, working on that. And when we order from TI right now to bring it to Canada, it's usually a good month and a half before we get it. So sometimes there's a lag there, but we're working on getting caught up. Does that answer
That's
the
good
question?
to know.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay.
And you may have to send some emails out with some of these responses, but it's good for us all to realize that there is recognition. And I know there are some delays, but we're only human and this is not our jobs. So there may be a few glitches. Electronic recognition on the district website for individuals and clubs is important, but can the district develop a strategy for assisting clubs to add the same recognition to their individual websites? I think you can. I know one year we added the badge that we had for the summer meetings into our front page.
I think is the question about so the district develop a strategy so then clubs should be putting the recognition on, because I think then that's up to the individual clubs themselves. Like, I don't know if anyone can say you must do this, because right now we have 100 paid clubs. Who's going to go and monitor all those websites to make sure they're up?
Well, and I'm thinking there may be people that don't want public recognition.
Yeah.
We always have to be aware of that.
Yeah.
Yvonne, does Igniters do anything on their website to recognize members?
I think they post when members reach complete a level or complete a path. They give recognition for that. And I haven't been on it for a while. I think they might, when I look, actually be given recognition to new members that join. But I would have to say I'm not really as familiar as perhaps I could be, should be. I don't look all the time.
It's a great idea. I know on civil, we do it, but it also has to be a person that is not busy, or it's, front of mind, and they're in that website all the time. I have to admit, I know I am the VPPR for a couple of clubs. I don't do that. I know I probably should now, but then I don't know who wants the recognition or not. Like, we can put it up on social media, but there's always that fine line. You don't know who wants that recognition and who doesn't.
Do you have a blog for your club? If that's a place that I have seen things posted, is a blog for the club that discusses what we're doing, just kind of making sort of chatty thing to see what's happening and what's now in our club.
Yeah, we don't, but that is a good idea.
Well, I don't know. I feel old because I don't know what younger people are actually looking for. I don't do social media. Maybe you do. Well, but I don't. And a lot of the younger generation just believes in social media. I don't. Okay, I don't like social media. I don't know how to use it. I'm not on any social media. I got out of things.
Mhm.
I do social media for my own purposes for the one social media I'm in. Just has to do with my disease, just to follow up other people that have it. But otherwise, I don't,
Yep.
I don't have use for it.
That's fair enough.
But that's just my take.
Yeah, and I'm always cautious about being on social media because you don't know who's using what for what purpose sometimes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I think that's something that the club itself would have to discuss. And the other challenge is finding someone who has the willingness and the time to do that update, because that takes
Yep.
a lot of work.
And the VP, I know it falls under the VPPR, but sometimes, like if you're a small club, so Mark, Kathy, TAP is small, and you only have so many people that actually all those members are already doing double duty. So if you have a bigger membership, maybe like, 12 people or 15 people, I think it's easier to get that one or two extra people to assist with the VPPR, which I think is a fantastic idea. But when you're a struggling club and you have challenges, you can only do so much, and people have, lives too, that they just can't commit like all that time to, Toastmasters VPPR. Like, I tried doing it. It's hard because you're making posts, and then you have to, post it here and you post it there. And it takes it's time consuming. Like, if you're a person that sits down for hours and you love the computer and you love making posts, go for it. I find it sometimes, maybe I'm getting too old, but when I'm on the computer, then I'm getting sore, and because I'm
You get a
leaning
new member
down,
that's interested, get them to do it.
yeah, and I'm like, I'm down for 2 weeks with a bad back or a bad shoulder.
Or we sound the same old
I-
fogies here, aren't we? I'm sorry, but
Mhm.
I was going to say, I find just doing the VP education role and getting agendas on sometimes is enough challenge, and trying to fill a role sometimes. It takes a great deal of work, and I'm sure Kathy would agree with me.
I think it's don't get me wrong, I think it's a great idea to do recognition and put it on the club website. I don't think it's up to the district to monitor it. Sure, they can say, yeah, we want you to do this. Like, and I even think if you go to other PR masterminds, or you ask people how are they getting members, you go to other clubs like outside the district, and they're doing a fabulous job on their website, and that's how you attract people. But I don't know if the district can mandate it, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I think it's up to the individual clubs personally to decide what their club members are comfortable with and how they would like to do it and who's going to do it. I'm going to bring up another topic that's come to my attention recently. Whether you're a club member, an executive member, a coach, I found out recently that there are several clubs where people do not understand the process of being a base camp manager. A lot of them will go in, they will approve the level completion. Once the person submits it, they'll approve it in base camp. And they don't know about the second step of the process, which is to go into Club Central and approve it there. Now, the people that can do that are your vice president of education, the secretary, and the president. It usually falls to the vice president of education, but think of this. If you're the vice president of education, you can approve your own level in base camp. You can't approve it in Club Central. And I've, over the past few years since Pathways came in, I've heard of this happening with several clubs where the vice president of education's been right on top of it and she's approved it in base camp.
Mhm.
It doesn't get approved in Club Central, and the club's going, but why aren't we getting any recognition for level completions? So if you're noticing that your club has no level completions, and I don't know, well, if you know how to go in and look at the dashboard, we may have to show you that if Deb wants to share. But
Yeah.
if you're a club officer, you can go into Club Central, go into your club, and you go to Distinguished Performance Reports, and it will show you all that information. But you would think if you were approving levels in base camp and never showing them on Distinguished Club, we're missing a step somewhere. And I brought this up to the Education Training Committee to say, I think we need to do a base camp manager training. We might be a little late on it, but I think it's something we should do. So Deb's in Club Central, and she's going to scroll way down.
So here's the submit the
Oh, yeah.
education. This is where you
Yeah.
would submit the education. Just click on it. And then you check for the member. So if I go looking for my name will not be on here. So I cannot do it. But that's where you would submit the award. Did you want me to go somewhere else, Mark?
Yeah, go back to Club Central and go down to Distinguished Performance Reports. So this is what Debbie's talking about, and this is what her club looks like. So you can see on where it says goal, that's the number they want. If you see on the right-hand side of that, it says to date. So you can see they need 4 level 1s, 2 are already completed. They needed 2 level 2s, that's checked off, so that's completed. They need 2 more level 2s, so they need 1 more person to complete it. Level 3s, they need 2, they have 1, so it shows 1 needed. And they have somebody that has completed a level 4, 5, or DTM, so that's checked off, and there's 1 more opportunity. So if you looked at this and it was all zeros in that 1 column, you might be questioning it and saying, but I know I completed something, why isn't it showing up? So I think we need to be aware of looking at these. And I don't know if it's a step we're missing in training, that club officers don't really understand the purpose of it. But if you're working with a club and you're not seeing any education goals, and you know people are doing speeches and very active, certainly ask someone to check it out or talk to somebody that might know about it. Yvonne, you have a comment.
Sorry, repeat the question.
I said, do you have a comment?
No, not really, because I've been VP Ed, but I know that when we switch to the new pathway system, the paths that are supported will be automatically submitted for credit. No longer does a VP Ed have to do that. But for all the paths that aren't supported, we're still going to have to go through the VP Ed for submission. And a lot of that depends on how astute your VP Ed is. Whether and how quick they are. Ours is fabulous. Ours is always going to be submitted. And she's on her case to give speeches all the time, but it's maybe that's going to make it easier when the new pathways rolls out and the old paths are finished and everybody's completed them. That's, I guess, my comment.
Yeah, I really hope it does make it easier because people do a lot of work to achieve those goals. And I think if they're not completed, it's difficult. Kathy,
I find there's another difficulty because there are some clubs where there are people that are not even registered in Pathways. And the ones that are registered in Pathways don't understand how to navigate through Pathways. And I think there should be more training in that as well.
well, if you have any questions or any discussion at any time, you just jump right in.
Will do. Well, you talking about pathway. I'm actually not even registered in one yet. I attended this, I guess our district's pathway orientation a while back, and then I forgot how to do it. And I guess my question is, are there any session that's not on a Thursday evening, Thursday evening of each month? Because
Our club,
no, the pathway orientation, I guess that was on the calendar, and normally it's the third week of each month on Thursdays, right? So
I thought they were supposed to be rotating and changing it, but
Oh.
also if you need a one-on-one, if you have time, how long do we have the Zoom link for, Deb?
half an hour.
We have
We
it
have
for
it
a while.
forever.
If you
The
need
next
a
one in March-
one-on-one, you,
The next one in March is on a Tuesday.
Oh,
Is on the
good.
19th.
Okay, I will register
and
that.
if you need a one-on-one, you have several people here that can take you through it.
Or if
Yeah.
you want to do it right now, we can do it right now.
We can do it right now, this minute.
Sure.
Okay, well, let's go for it. You might want to stop recording before we do that. Or do you want to wait? What we'll
Oh,
do
come
is
on.
we'll finish off the session and see
And
if there are any other ideas, suggestions. How can we as a club coach committee help you? We are
Okay.
working with the coaches. We know there are clubs struggling, and we've tried desperately to find more people to be club coaches. And that is our challenge, is finding the people that have the extra time, the extra commitment, the willingness to take on a club coach role.
I think the problem is partly, Mark, because there's not enough recognition for you doing club coach. Unless your club makes it a distinguished, you don't get any recognition. You get nothing
Actually-
for doing it, except for
District-
maybe you feel good because you helped the club. So tell me,
Actually-
sorry, Debbie.
District has changed that this year.
Okay.
You will get something for being a club coach. You might not
What?
get your club coach. Well, right now it is a gift certificate, but I'm open to changing it up to $25, anything on the TI store. Just because I want to put an incentive out there for club coaches. And yes, they don't get anything until they are a successful club coach. I don't agree with that. I think they should get something at the beginning. There should be some type of incentive. Maybe not your club coach, but that's one thing that the district is doing.
Yeah, and
I
I
can-
do not,
Mhm.
and I do not like the idea, like they only have 6 months to do it and they kind of cut things off, and it makes it really difficult.
Yeah.
For every one of them.
But if you haven't received anything, Yvonne,
Well, no,
let-
it's not that
let me
I'm
know.
looking. No, I'm not looking to receive
know.
anything, but I'm just glad that the district is actually looking at that to see what they can do to make it maybe a little bit more acceptable. I don't know what the right adjective is for it. I'm quite happy to do it just to help another club. And just because I had some spare time I wanted to use. And I looked into doing the club in Regina because for me, because I don't hear well, it's better for me to do things online rather than in person. So that was my reason I did the club in Regina, and I'm quite happy being with them. I think it's been a good learning experience for both them and me. And I think Michelle is incredible. She goes the extra mile and two to make things a success.
And Yvonne, you may not think that you're doing something there, because I heard a lot tonight that you're saying, oh, Michelle does it all. You know what? You being there and giving some ideas, that's making everything, you're the support for that team.
What do you
So
do when you
thank
give
you
them
for
ideas and they don't do anything? I said, you really need to have executive meetings. At least once a year, let's have one next week.
Yeah.
Well, nothing comes of that. Let's have introductions before speeches, but nothing happens of that either. So I'm just saying you try, they listen,
But
and
you're
nothing
there for them.
happens. The seed
You're
is
there for
there.
them. One thing
But
I
you know
wanted
what,
to
Yvonne? I want to really comment on this because what you forget is you're there and you take a role at their meetings. And that takes a weight off Michelle.
Yes.
If you go in as a club coach and you can take general evaluator, you can take Toastmaster, you can do a speech evaluation, that takes the weight off those experienced members. And I can tell you personally how draining it is if you look at the agenda and you go, I have to be Toastmaster again. And some weeks you just don't want to be Toastmaster. All you want to do is be the grammarian and listen to the ahs and ums. So having another experienced person within that room that will take those roles occasionally, or that you can say, I'll do a speech if you'll do Toastmaster, is a huge weight off every individual. And I think what you're looking at is if you're a club mentor with a new club for 6 months, they sign you off, you're done. You can be a club coach for count them 4 years. And unless the club gets that membership up, my clubs have never had a problem with educationals, but unless they can get the membership up, you get. And I think that's part of why people are tending to say, I'll be a club sponsor, I'll be a club mentor. Don't want to be a club coach.
yes.
Well, you have a comment.
One thing I wanted to do is I wanted to go back to the recognition piece, because I forgot to mention this too. Stacy and I have teamed up. This used to be done on social media, but it's not anymore because I think it takes up a lot of time. And what Stacy and I are doing, it takes up some time, but I think it's easier. So for recognition, we are handing out or sending these little postcards. Don't know if you can see it. Trying to see it. There.
Not with your background. Oh, there it is.
There. And I got this idea from another district. Now, I cannot send it out with people who have the privacy turned on their account. So when you go to the educationals, it'll show just your membership number. So I'm not sending it out to those people, just the people that have their names. And it helps with two things. Yes, it's recognition for that member, because we want to retain the members. And if I can do something like that one small thing, give them that recognition so we can retain them and say, hey, congratulations. So they know somebody is looking and somebody actually cares. That's great. The other part of it is the advertising for Toastmasters. So this is all going out at Canada Post. And it's great advertising because you never know if that post office person is looking at a Toastmasters. Maybe I should try that. Where leaders are made. It might work, it might not. And I got that idea from being in one of my peer calls. And they shared the postcards. Why not? We took it. And so when we started this at Christmas time, Stacy and I did about 300 of those postcards. 300. Now we're down to just trying to keep up, which is fine. So if you see one of those postcards, that's what it is. That's a little bit of recognition. And I think sometimes recognition goes a long way. That's all I wanted to say.
I think sometimes we forget how important every little bit of recognizing someone's accomplishments can be. And it becomes very difficult sometimes to keep up with everything, but we all try our very best. Is there any other item you would like to discuss? I know we have covered a lot of ground. I believe part of the biggest challenge for each and every club is keeping membership up, keeping the people coming into your club and getting them signed up. The other challenge is helping people with pathways. And we're going to stay on a little later after we've adjourned the meeting and help Bob find the way to select a path. So hopefully you can share your screen with us and we can talk you through it.
Thanks,
And
everybody. That
Kathy-
was fun, but I'm going to sign off now. And I'll see you next time.
Thanks,
at the meeting.
Yvonne.
Thank you. I'm going to stop
Thank
the
you.
recording.